All right. Welcome back to episode 11 of the Ruthless Awakening.
Welcome.
Yes. It's we didn't do last week, which is okay because we've got life to do. But my brother and I both decided that at least twice a month we will have an episode, and then throughout that time we'll splice up this episode so there's a little
Right.
bit more bite-sized stuff. I'm also now currently working on bringing at least one meditation back per month. I've been like slacking on that since I had kids. So, and it, just you get overwhelmed with everything that's going on. So,
Got to find a
uh,
new rhythm, work things out. Yeah, man.
100%.
Back, brother. Bring them
Yeah,
back.
so I'm gonna bring it back. I've been wanting to, like, I've had a deep desire. It's not that I was like, I'm done with this. It's just like to I have to rethink everything because the previous videos that I created, they were very complex visually. Like you could sit there, open eyes, and like actually made those first videos kind of like an opened eye meditation.
Right.
But most people, they breathe with their eyes closed.
Of course.
So it really, the audio is more important than the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just basically like bring it down to very basic screen, no motion. I might not even do the breathing circle and just like focus on the cues. However, that might be not cool for those that are like hearing impaired. They need some visual stimulus. So I'm still working on that.
Yeah. I mean, it works.
Yeah,
You'll figure it out. You're great at that.
yeah.
So you want me to mention our sponsor of the day, my brother?
Please. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sure. Today's sponsor is brought to you by emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need emotional intelligence to drive through life.
That's right, dude. Sometimes you can't be let me just do that. All right. Sometimes you can't be bitch about things. You gotta know when to hold back. Which is kind of
Especially, man.
crazy.
Yeah,
Kind of
life is
crazy
crazy.
because I'm like seeing how emotional intelligence is being developed with my son. He's like 3 years old, so his emotional intelligence is insanely bad.
Yeah,
He has no valve or anything. So when he has tantrums and how to deal with it, it's like important on how I react to those tantrums. Like I
yeah,
can't be like, shut the fuck up, little boy. Don't
yeah,
cry. I
yeah.
gotta be like, hey, dude, I understand you got some big emotions flowing through you right now. So
Right.
like, let's ride it out. And but
Especially the
his
first 7 years, man. It's like as a parent and knowing that, and that's kind of crazy because like the previous generation didn't really know anything about this stuff.
no,
Like our parents, and especially our parents' parents, they were like, kids are basically empty vessels that have no real feelings, so don't give a fuck about it. Don't guide them. Don't teach them how to manage conflict. Don't like just tell them to shut the fuck up. Kids
yeah,
are not supposed to be heard. They're supposed to
yeah,
be seen.
yeah,
Be a man, don't cry.
yeah.
I get it, dude. Like,
Cowboys don't cry.
yeah,
It's like,
famous,
yeah.
you know?
That was the one that scarred my youth.
Yeah, dude. No, I mean,
Cowboys don't cry.
I remember coming to mom at like a big gathering of family and friends and stuff, and then like this bigger kid would hurt you and
Yeah,
whatever. Like, mom, this kid like just punched me in the face, and they're being bullies and all this stuff, and we're like 4, 5, 6 year
yeah.
old kids. And mom's like, Cowboys don't cry, son. Go
Figure the
back
shit
there,
out.
deal with it
Yeah.
somehow,
Somehow figure it
which
out. Yeah.
has its advantages, but like I agree. I think guiding kids and telling them, especially in their 7 year, like first 7 years, just making sure that they have like a basic programming on how to deal with emotions and how to
Yeah, and
do
and
that
it's
stuff.
hard. It's hard because this is as an adult, like you get frustrated. You want to lash out.
Yeah. Or
Sometimes you
you got
react.
your shit, you got your stuff, and then like, but dude, don't
Yeah.
need this fucking screaming. Shut up, you
Yeah, I'm
spoiled
busy with stuff. Yeah.
spoiled piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Internal dialogue.
Yeah. But still like sometimes you react and sometimes you react badly and then you see that
It hits.
fear translate in
Right.
their faces and it
Yeah.
reflects back to you
Yeah.
and that's some crazy shit, dude. And you're like, "Oh my God, I'm such a
Yeah.
piece of
Yeah.
shit."
I don't think any parent has gone through life without feeling like a piece of shit, one or many times. But the main thing there is just like having the humility to just go back to your kid and tell him, listen, son, I'm sorry about this. I overreacted, like
Yeah.
that was wrong.
Explain
Yeah.
it, and
Give him
like,
some context. Be like, it's not justified, but I was under a lot of pressure and
yeah,
shit. So I'm
yeah.
sorry.
And they won't understand that, but your tone
No.
changed and you're
Yeah.
now like there
Yeah.
with them. And what I try to do is like when he's having a tantrum, I sit with him and I'm just like, it's all right, dude. Like, let's go through this. I know you're feeling it, but let's ride it, dude. Let's ride it out till its end. He goes, "Wah!" And it's like wild, and it's just like, and I'm containing him so he doesn't like hurt himself. But like it at the end of the thing, it's like, all right, he hugs
He
you,
exfolded.
and
Yeah.
it's like, all right, it's like almost like an exorcism. It's
Yeah.
like an emotion is kind of like a fucking demon that comes into you, and it's like, especially at
Yeah.
that age, you're
Hmm.
possessed by this
Well, it's the
strong
hormones,
emotion.
dude. Like
Yeah.
they're also getting hormone injections, like boosts, because their
Yeah,
body
like
has
their
to
brain's
grow.
producing a
There's
super
a lot
like
of shit going
yeah.
on, dude.
It's still developing. Like
Yeah.
he's literally still like he got out of the womb, but he's still like in that process of
Yeah.
assembling
Yeah.
himself. So it's
Yeah.
pretty
And
crazy.
the main thing for a parent like me personally is like making sure there's a fine line between being like a spoiled brat that gets away with anything.
Yeah.
So you got to teach him that and whatever. Me,
Yep.
for example, right now, I'm in a different stage. Like my daughters are 15, going on 16. So, they're in high school. We don't make breakfast for them anymore. Like they got to do that themselves. They got to prepare their sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah.
And the first breakfast, man, I like cooking as you do.
Hmm.
And the first breakfast was like, such a disaster and so like not tasty. Not enough oil in the pan, just
Yeah.
some dry ass egg, and like
Gross.
half of the egg is stuck to the
What
pan.
like what I would like to call poverty eggs. When you're so
Yeah,
poor that you don't even have like butter, you're just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
man. I squeeze out this last drop of like fucking motor oil that I have left, and I
Yeah,
distilled it so that it's edible.
yeah, I burnt it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and me, I'm like, dude, no, don't do it like that. But try to control myself
Yeah,
because I
hold back. Let them to fuck
allow
up.
them to fuck up,
Yeah.
learn, change, adapt. Because the fuck up and the management of the fuck up increases confidence,
Yeah.
And I would say like maybe one word could describe teenagehood, you know.
Yeah.
It's probably insecurity. They
Yeah.
just don't know what the fuck, dude. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know what the
That's
next
the
day
most
is gonna
important
hold,
thing. Like that's I think is what the greatest gift that our father gave us was that self-discovery thing when we
Mhm.
were like right in the middle of that teenage phase of like not knowing who the fuck you are. Like I didn't know who I was. I don't know what I wanted. I have
No.
no idea.
And no teenager really does.
Yeah.
That's, like, it's kind of what I think is one of the big wrongs with the system. Because, like, you're like 17, 18, you just finished high school. Now you got to decide what career you're going to study if you're going to study
Yeah.
at this age, dude. And it's like, I don't even know who the fuck I am. I don't
Well,
know what
like
I really like, like,
Carl Jung says that a man's life starts at 40.
yeah, yeah, many people say,
And because from 0 to 20, you're basically just assembling yourself still.
yeah,
Like
you're
you're
a
not
kid.
even a full human
Yeah,
yet. You're
yeah,
just like in that process of becoming, basically till about 25.
yeah,
And then from 25 to 40, you're basically just figuring out who you are. Like that's it. And then at 40, you've gone through enough shit.
yeah.
You've like had your heart broken enough times. Now you know
You
who
made
you
your
are.
mistakes. You've
Yeah,
done things
and you
wrong.
know what you like and you
Right.
know what you don't like. And so now you can focus and really for the next 20 years produce like amazing stuff. And
Yeah.
I think it was Denzel Washington that said that life is like it's like the first 20 years you learn, next 20 years you earn, and then the next 20 years you give back.
Hmm.
Like, and I like that. I was like, that's a great philosophy. Like the first part of your life, it's all about learning and fucking up and don't worry about anything. The second one is where you really mastered your craft and you're earning. And then by the third one, that's when you're like, you've now become the king. So now start giving back and
Right.
helping up the other
Help
people
building.
behind you.
Right.
And I was like, fucking
That's a great way
Denzel.
of living, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great way of living, dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, bro, I stumbled on something that's kind of interesting in the week,
Yeah.
called the dead horse theory.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty interesting topic and it's applicable to many things.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just like sort of read something about it, like real
Sure,
quick,
yeah. Go for it.
and just like what people do? This is more of like a management thing, but
Yeah.
it comes from like the Native Americans that used to, roam the plains,
Yeah.
and they called it the dead horse theory. And it's basically this, like their saying or their proverb comes from the Dakota Indians. Their proverb was, when you discover that you're riding a dead horse, the best strategy is to dismount.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds stupid.
Yeah, I heard a different version which said like there's no point in flogging a dead horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So check this out. Now, for example, this thing applies to our own personal lives. It applies to business. It applies to government.
Yeah.
Applies to institutions in like this kind of way where we're doing something that's not functional. You know, in
Yeah.
my life, I'm doing something. I'm trying to start a business. I've been doing it for like many years now. Giving up is never an option. But then
Yeah.
we start sometimes not seeing what the root cause of the problem is.
Yeah.
For instance, some people they realize they're riding a dead horse, but instead of riding a dead horse, they get a better whip, so they can
Yeah.
whip their horse better. They change riders, and that's where that like don't. What was that saying? What's the way you heard it?
There's no point in flogging a dead horse.
Yeah, so that's where the whole get a stronger whip. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
maybe the horse isn't moving because we don't have a good whip.
Yeah.
Or you know what? It's the rider. The rider sucks. Let's fire the rider.
Yeah.
Get a new rider.
Yeah.
Or other examples where like I have this write up of the dead horse theory because I'm preparing a course for next Tuesday with a bunch of leaders of a company,
Yeah.
and I'm going to talk about this because they're doing their strategic planning of the year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, changing riders or threatening the horse with termination. Dude, we're going to
Yeah.
get you out here. You don't work. You know what? You're done.
Yeah.
And appointing a committee to study the horse.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole committee can find a new way to do this.
Yeah.
And then arranging to visit other countries to see how others ride dead horses,
Yeah. Yeah.
or lowering the standards so that the dead horses can also be
Yeah.
included,
Yeah.
or reclassifying the dead horse as living impaired. It's not dead; it's just living impaired.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
hiring outside contractors to ride the dead horse. They must
Yeah.
know because our guys are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harnessing several dead horses together to increase the speed,
Yeah.
or providing additional funding or training to increase the dead horse's performance.
Yeah.
And then we could do a productivity study to see if lighter riders would improve the dead horse's performance. Or maybe we could declare that the dead horse doesn't have to be fed, so it's less costly. It's lower overhead. It's way better to have a dead horse than a living horse. We need
Yeah.
to check that bottom line.
Yeah.
And or you could rewrite the expected performance requirement for all horses. Just change the whole fucking scheme.
Yeah.
And or we could promote dead horses to a supervisory position of hiring other horses. What do you think?
Yeah.
So I like that because I'm sort of prepping it for a course that I'm doing, and for a company that's very successful and everything. But all companies and all people and all families and all institutions and all governments have dead horses in
Yes.
their existence
Yes.
and surroundings.
So the question is, when do you know you have a dead horse?
Well, that is exactly what I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
Like, uh, how do you know, or at what point do you have to define something as a dead horse?
Well,
Like,
I actually that's what I was studying about this. I was like, okay, I get what the dead horse is about, and I can recognize that there are dead horses in our lives. But what are the metrics to define when the horse is actually dead or taking a nap? And so one of the key factors that came to mind was joy. Like if
when
you
it's not joy
when it's not
enjoyable.
joyful, when it's not like when you're doing something worthwhile and that's a live horse and you're moving in a direction, that's the point. The dead horse doesn't move. It doesn't move you forward. You're
Right.
just standing in the same
It's not
place.
giving you what it needs to give you.
Yeah. There's no return. There's really no actual return, but the return is mostly emotional. Like if there's no fulfillment, in the act. If there's no, if it's just for the sake of doing because you want to achieve X and it's not going anywhere, like let's say I want to go and start a business because I want money. That's my real motivation. I want money, right? Not to build a business, not to do anything. So I start this business. And this business, I've done the research and I've done it, and it's tedious and it's costly, and I'm investing and I'm making a little bit of money back, but it's not really breaking to the point where I wanted it to get to. And I do it for a year. And I said, well, I survived a year. I maybe need to do it for 3 years. And I'm doing it for 3 years. And man, there's a little bit marginal increases, but it's really not breaking out of that threshold that I was expecting it to be. Um, 3 years go by. And throughout this whole process, I feel the whole thing as a burden. I feel it's like, oh God, I gotta go up and do this shit again. Very Sisyphusian in a way, It's like you're pushing that boulder up that hill and it keeps on sliding fucking backwards. And there you go again, and you're pushing up. And that's really what a dead horse is. It's a Sisyphus act. It's an act of pushing a boulder that's constantly going to be rolling back down. You're never going to reach the top. You're
Right.
never going to reach your destination. Or in the case of Sisyphus, you reach the top and it rolls down the other side. It's like, man, you got to get to the top, but it's impossible. So um, that's a key factor. Like, because when you do an act like that, it robs you of joy. It robs you of purpose. It robs you of that. It becomes a burden. And so the cost of doing is more than the expected return. And now you're just stuck in this loop. And so the
Right.
question then is, what do you do? Well, you get off,
Yeah.
right? That's the.
Well, personally, man, like it has a lot to do with persistence, you know.
Mhm.
And sometimes persistence is a negative virtue,
Yeah.
like some cases. And that's the trick. Like, how do you decide when something is a dead horse? Like for you, it might be something that's happened or that you're doing or did that ended up being joyless. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm just doing this as a drone, as a zombie. And I think many people in the world live like that. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go do my job. I'm gonna repeat my cycle. I'm gonna do my things. There's no like surprises or anything. It's just like a boring, monotonous, constant, repetition of actions that seems fruitless, you know? So sometimes you don't have an option and you got to keep on riding that dead horse, you know? Sometimes it's like, oh man, I got this job. I kind of don't like it because, it puts bread on the table, but, it's just empty. It's not what I want to do.
Yeah, also
So,
you could be finding yourself stuck in that necessity loop, right? Where you're
right.
like doing a dead end job just to put money on the
Which most
table.
people are in,
Yeah.
like most people in the planet, I think, are in a job that's probably not 100% aligned with them.
Yeah.
Like they're not, and we got to be realistic about it too. Like we were just speaking about the stages of man or humans,
Yeah.
and when you get to be an adult, it's not like you can just be like, oh yeah, whatever. No,
Yeah, I'm
dude,
just
I
gonna
got
do
people.
whatever. Yeah.
I'm carrying people.
Yeah.
I'm there's people that need me to do this. So out of love, you sometimes stick through it and just keep on doing something. So you got to slowly pivot away from it if you really want to pivot away from it. You
Yeah.
can't just like, I've done it before where it's like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to do this when I was bright eyed and bushy tailed young man,
Yeah.
and like, you know what? Screw that. You're going to quit your job, wife, and we're starting this business and it's going to be a massive success
Yeah.
and everything's going to be fine. And 3 years later, you're losing your house,
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
and it's like, fuck, dude, that was a mistake,
Yeah, you should have had kept the money coming in so that,
Yeah. So
like
does that
now in
mean,
retrospect, like, no, no, no,
yeah,
wife, you keep your job. I'm gonna kick
yeah,
my ass at this, and it's
right,
gonna work with us both putting our forces
right,
together.
yeah,
Not like me
teamwork,
stealing, yeah, like not me taking away and allowing this, like us to both fall down. We have no
totally, dude.
contingency plans.
Yeah,
We
like,
didn't, yeah,
yeah. So the thing is, it's like absolutely, man. So you gotta be smart about
yeah.
getting off that dead horse sometimes,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's
But
also another quote that I like, which I think is very relevant to the topic, is that winners quit often and they quit hard. Like
right,
a
yeah,
winner knows exactly when what he's doing is
right,
no longer worth what they're gonna try
yeah,
to achieve.
yeah. It's like a very very not talked about aspect of winning, you
Yeah.
know, failing,
Yeah. But
failing
not
a
even just
lot.
failing, just quitting. Be
Yeah,
like,
but
I'm
quitting,
not,
exactly.
it's like
Yeah,
failing is one thing. It's like you tried something, you didn't achieve it. That's failing. But
yeah,
quitting is like, no, this isn't worth my time. Peace.
right.
I'm gone.
Yeah, but for
Snap.
me, like failure and quitting are something similar because for me personally, I'm a very persistent person. I don't like to give up. You
Yeah.
know, if I have a project or a business or a relationship that I want to have work, then I'll go through the hard times and I will not give up. You know,
Yeah.
but because I think failing is just somebody that gave up too early.
Yeah.
You know, because there's the cycle. You learn from your
But
failures.
like this is what I'm coming at. So that's one thing, sure. But the other thing is understanding that what you're doing isn't the right path and there's a better way to use your
That's a
time and
different story.
energy. So
So
when you
that
quit,
now we're separating the
yeah.
concepts. You
When
know,
you
like
yeah. That's like you're
one
not
thing is
giving up.
failing is
Yeah.
just stopping to do something.
Like the
You
way
know,
that I'm saying it is rather like it's not that you're giving up. You're not like, oh, I'm done with it
right,
achieving this thing. You're saying, well, I want the business, right? Like let's say that is your motivation. You want to build a successful business. That's your thing. So you walk towards that. You say, well, I want to do it in this way. And you're like, well, the ice cream shop's not fucking working. Okay, cool. Fuck the ice cream shop. Let's do something
right,
else. Let me go get two cars and get Uber drivers. Maybe that's my business.
right.
Maybe I haven't found my business yet, you
Hmm.
know, but the method that I'm using isn't working. So I need to know. And when you can recognize when the method isn't working early enough, you save yourself a lot of time and money, and then you get to your objective quicker. So that's why a winner knows how to identify when he's got a
Right,
dead horse and
exactly. Yeah,
quits immediately when he says, "Oh, he's not going to make the committee. He's not going to do that. He's going to say fuck it
right.
immediately. This
I'm
is
not
not
going to
worth
go
our
through
time."
all these steps. I'm just going to go from the start, realize I'm on a dead horse,
Yeah.
and
And
that's it. But
let me calculate the data. Let me take the losses. It's cool because I would rather, instead of trying to make this dead horse be alive, do something and start working on something else
right.
and work with a
Stop
live
investing
horse.
in the dead horse.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
So coming back to how do you identify? You know, like I think we kind of identify it in that way where it's like, okay, dude, let's be first of all as objective as possible. I'm gonna look at this situation as if it's not me. If I was somebody else looking at this thing from the outside, then I would immediately realize, dude, that guy's riding a dead horse, you know? But sometimes you're so in love with the dead horse or you're so like invested in the dead horse already that you don't want to lose what you've invested. But you don't realize that it's like, so in essence, you got to be very objective and
Yeah.
very cold,
I
very
was,
clinical about your situation.
as you were talking about this, I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if there was a way you could double blind your dead horse? You
What do
know,
you mean by that?
double blind studies in like research is basically like where they take the data and they obscure it. Like you don't know what's the actual data that you're looking at. You're like, I mean, yeah, you know what it's related to and stuff like that, but you don't know where it came from. You're just basically objectively looking at cold numbers without the context, and then you were like, oh, okay, this is the answer. And so it's like, for example, double blind would be something like they give one group a placebo, they would give another group the actual medicine, and then, the control group. But the scientists researching that wouldn't know where the data is coming from. They would just interpret the data like blindly. So
Right.
it
So
would
they're
be,
being super objective.
yeah, there's
They're
no
not
way, there's no emotion.
invested.
There's no
Right.
emotion because you remove
They're
the
not trying to
context.
prove like, no, 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 but real medicine works way better than the placebo effect.
Yeah,
Like
there's
they're
none of
not
that.
in that, they can't do that. They're
No,
just
no, they're
looking
just
at
they
the
don't know which one
hard
is the placebo.
data.
They don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, they're just
They're
like,
just
oh,
looking at hard data.
yeah, and then
So
they,
so basically that's what you got to do. Like step number one is be super honest with yourself.
yeah,
Even if it fucking hurts, you
hmm
know, even if it's offensive to yourself, and even if you feel like an idiot because finally you're talking to yourself straight and telling you, like, dude, okay, yeah, dude, you know, for instance, that the dead horse thing has happened to me many times in different like ventures or partnerships that I've had, where it's like, dude, I actually realize that I fucking hate this, but this is gonna go nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'm actually wasting my time. I'm wasting their time, and this is gonna end badly. You see it way before it really ends bad, you
Yeah.
know? So uh and why do you do that? Well, like I said, the factors, like I got a family to take care of, and there is some sort of return on investment here. I can sort of sustain my family with this, but I'm so fucking not me. I'm not
Yeah.
being me. I'm not being authentic. I'm not achieving what I can achieve. These people are actually not helping me. They're kind of hindering me.
And
Like
there's a bitterness in your life, right? You're
and
feeling,
and you're feeling down in the dumps all the time, right?
yeah,
So
anxious, angry, all of
yeah,
these.
worried, anxious, in a stress mode all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And uh and it's just better to just go straight at it and be like, okay, dude, let me quickly think of some plan B's and C's. What can I do if this doesn't work out? You need to have an alternative, a living horse that you want to start riding,
Yeah.
you know? So one thing is being objective. The other thing is immediately having like, what am I really going to do? I'm
Yeah. And
not going
like,
to send a
and there's
committee.
the
I'm not going to
thing.
go do a
Yeah.
study. I'm not going to fucking whip it harder. I'm not going to do that shit. I really want to like, okay, where am I going to get, what am I going to mount? Because the time period between getting off the horse and not riding something else could, in a financial aspect, fuck your family, you
Yeah.
know?
But that's why what you would do, like in the case of you building a business or something like that, and you've got a dead horse on you, well, the first thing you do is get a job. Like you go and work for somebody, or somebody has to start supplanting.
You need to
Uh,
create stability.
yeah, like that's one thing that I've learned over all of our decades of poverty is that you can't build unless there's some sense of stability.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's kind of like, the difference between a nomadic lifestyle and like a tribal settled lifestyle. The nomads, they live on a day-to-day thing. They just hunt what they eat and that's it. And they move in around all the time chasing the animals, right? But the settlements start growing some seeds, start cultivating, start fishing, start having surpluses. They can raise their family. They can have abundance. You can't have abundance if you haven't taken root somewhere and start building something and get a network and a tribe and everything around you to make you, eventually prosper.
yeah.
You know,
Well, that's one thing that Paul, my buddy, like he's told me that a while ago. He says that, um, and it's something because that I'm working on. I've always been highly anarchist since I was like a kid. Like my first digital download was the Anarchist Cookbook.
yeah.
That's the thing I did. So
Smoke
yeah,
bombs,
smoke
dynamite,
bombs
pipe
and
bombs.
all that stuff. Built that and. Um, I was never fully an anarchist, but like the ideology, the belief of rule thyself is a very hard thing in a structure in my being. And he was talking about it. It's like, well, where are you the most free? And I was like, well, he's like in the forest, in the wilderness. Like nobody's freer than the person who lives in the wild. The problem with that is that there's no systems. There's no system. So every day you got to hunt for your food. Every day you've got to, if you get sick, you've got to use whatever remedies around there. There's predators hunting you, et cetera, et cetera. Is that when you're in the city, you can go to a bank and get a loan for a business and build something. Like,
Right,
so, but to be in the city, you have to let go of some of that freedom. You have to, take that autonomy and be like, okay, I'm going to play by these rules. I'm going to do these type of things. And so, um, yeah. So when you've got absolute freedom, you're living in chaos. Like there is no system. And you have to have sort of this marriage between the two, knowing when you are going to be just you and when you're going to have to like lay down and do something for other people. And so when you're
yeah,
in a system like that, it's like, okay, well, we can build businesses, we can go and find an alternative income stream for the meanwhile. Like let's say
right,
your objective is the business, but you're at a dead horse. Okay, so what's the options? Oh, I got to get a job, I got to get something like this, I got to get some money to build something. Because that's something I learned. It's like I did so many ventures and I had so many dead horses. But the reason my horses died was because I didn't have money. Like
Yeah,
I didn't have feed. Wasn't
yeah,
able to give it food. And so the horse dies. And now because you're making money and you're eating the same money, and so you're not going to be able to prosper or grow.
yeah,
So step one, if you've got a dead horse, is get stability, whatever
yeah,
that means. Like if you're gonna have to do part-time at a coffee shop, so be it, dude. That's
yeah.
fine. But you got to pay
Right.
those bills. You got to put food on the table.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, uh, stop the leaking because
Yeah.
we're always spending, right? So
Yeah.
there needs to be some sort of income, and then but separate diligently, like identify your horse is dead, be objective about it, as you just said. Hey, man, I killed this horse. You
Yeah.
know, that's a hard talk to have with somebody else, with yourself. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, dude, I'm the one that's responsible for this horse not working. Why? Because sometimes the right ideas executed in the wrong time of your life is a bad idea,
Yeah.
you know, and it causes pain.
Yeah.
So anything that you don't do at the right time, which there's never really a perfect time for anything, but there's like a perfect season for certain
Yeah.
things, right? Like I couldn't do leadership talks or whatever in the same way, like the snot nosed me 20 years ago talking about leadership, not having lived life at all, must
Yeah.
have been kind of, like for a grown director of a company or whatever, be like, dude, okay, yeah, okay, he's got some good stuff, but has he lived it already?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Is this all just
And
theory?
yeah, so now it's way differently perceived. Like whatever I say right now in leadership and things like that gets taken from a different viewpoint because I've grown, I'm different, and
Yeah.
there's more
There's
depth
more
in what
social
I'm saying.
acceptance, but at the same time, like the 20-year-old you might have been a snot-nosed idealist, right? But you did speak some truths. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
something like the way that I can equate that is like in my music, I wrote a couple of songs that when I sang it when I was 20 was okay and it had some impact. But now when I sing it when I'm 40, it's deep. It's like
Right.
it's got that feeling and that
That's what
emotion
I'm saying.
towards
There's
it.
depth.
Yeah. There's
There's like
like,
actual experience behind the
yeah,
concept.
yeah,
So
behind the
we
words.
had the eyes to see the good stuff inside of our philosophy or our
Yeah.
thoughts or whatever, but we didn't really live it yet.
But this is where I wanted to get to. So this is more for us as now older people looking at young people. We tend to look at them a little bit more condescendingly, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you snot nose, you don't have any experience. But at the same light, it's like, well, me 20 years ago could see the thing. So maybe instead of me trying to like say
Squash it,
no,
right?
maybe put my ego to the side and say, hey, this person might be onto something. And I
Yeah,
have the experience to take that
to
something
guide it.
now and like
Exactly.
mold it or use it
Right.
or stuff like that. So um, it's kind of a lesson, the mirror that
Yeah,
you look through.
yeah, dude. That's why it's very important to again, going back to it, be very honest with yourself. It's the only way to really grow in life. It's the
Yeah,
only way to get to better conclusions, you know, and be teachable. Like
yeah,
for instance, going back like to the dead horse, like I think number one, be super objective and be incredibly honest with yourself. Two, you must have some sort of plan immediately if you're going to dismount that dead horse, because for better or worse, the dead horse is giving you something. That's why you're still on it, you know, and that's why everybody's still committed to it and wants to ride it, you know. But okay, great. Now I've done it. Now, what am I going to build? Like, where am I going to go? You know, like now I have my stability. What exactly am I going to do? How am I going to start like going from one step to the next and really either raise a new horse to ride, you know, or find a good horse that you can ride for.
yeah.
You know? So uh, yeah, just bro, can we pause the video for a little bit?
Sure thing. One sec.
Because William's down here.
And we're back.
So
Uh,
yeah, sorry.
that's all right.
So anyways, man, it's just I think it's honesty, man. Like being super honest with yourself and being okay with the losses that you've
Well, it's
already
kind of
gained.
interesting that the sponsor of our show is emotional intelligence
Yeah,
because
no,
I think that's the key indicator to know. Because, like, you will know in your heart before you know in your
right,
mind. You
yeah,
know, you will always know in your heart before you know in
right,
your mind. And we tend to try to be very mental about our
minimize.
lives
Right,
and be like, oh, let me rationalize this.
right,
No, this is not a dead horse. And that's where that whole like, board meetings is all the rational thinking. It's like, oh, we got to do it. When in the heart, it's starting to smell, bro. It's not, this horse ain't alive. There's foam coming out of its mouth.
I'm not
No,
wearing
dude.
that bandana for nothing on my
Yeah,
face, you
yeah.
know?
This is not like
Yeah,
fashion. This
right.
is, yeah. So
It's got
I
some
think
eucalyptus in it.
emotional intelligence and being able to feel your heart. And I think that's why good
It's
meditation and
hard,
those
bro.
practices
Takes
are
courage, man.
are
Takes
required.
courage.
Well, the thing is, I've kind of like learned to detach myself from the things I do. Like I'm writing a novel, I'm almost done with it. It could succeed or it could fail. It's a good novel. I'm liking the process. And that's really what it's about. Like if you don't want to have a dead horse, the moment you stop loving the process, you've got a dead horse. Like well, the moment you're no longer invested in doing all of these things, and the moment it's actually a burden,
Right.
you've got a dead horse.
Yeah.
Sorry, oh, but I'm making this much money. I'm actually having a success on the books, but you feel like shit. You hate what you're doing. Well, sell that fucker.
Yeah.
Do what you love. Because you're living, bro. You're fucking like obviously in business, you
Right.
can't tell this to the people in the leadership training, right? But in life, you have one life. You're living it now. Are you
Yeah.
gonna spend the next 10 years sucking at it?
Hmm.
Like feeling like hobo cum? No.
Right.
You you don't want to feel like that.
Curd cheese.
Yeah, dude, like on the side of a sidewalk, just
Come on,
grimy,
man. Stop.
slimy.
Stop. Listen, that's gross, dude.
Oh, sorry.
I think
Trigger
of
warning.
San Francisco, LA, inner city. Nah. Anyways, yeah, I can see that and smell it, dude. So yeah, no, don't do
Got
that
life.
anymore.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for
Um,
your verbal description of
yeah.
nasty.
Yes.
But
But if
yeah,
that's how you
bro,
want to feel like for the next 10 years of your life, well, why?
fuck
You're
yeah.
gonna die, dude.
Well,
Like,
I mean, dude, exactly. Like, why don't people do it? Because they're scared, dude. Why are
yeah.
we scared? Because we only know the now, you know? But if you explore a little bit, and that's why philosophy is such an important thing in life, to actually think of what your core philosophy is, like whatever yours is, but something in the sense of, dude, we got one life, as we know, for
Yeah.
what we know. We got one life. Uh, it has a beginning and it will have an end. We're all gonna die. And when you die, there's not one fucking material thing that you're taking with you. What is our goal? Well, our goal is what you just said with Denzel Washington. That like when I'm old, I'm established, I'm everything, then how are you giving back?
Yeah.
Like I'm giving
Learn.
back to my family. Like I would like my kids to have a bit of a better life or a better startup than I had, more resources available to them and functional people, and I want them to be spoiled brats and stuff. But I want them to be able to take what I gave them and live better.
Yeah.
That's really the goal. That's all I give a fuck about.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about like, the Louis Gerber tower or, like I don't give a shit about that because it doesn't fucking matter because I'm
No.
not taking it with. So that's
No.
the only way you can lose the fear of, oh shit, man, 10 years or I'm just gonna jump ship, motherfucker. What,
Yeah.
like, scary shit.
Yeah.
So, like that's how I have gotten to that point where it's like not detached. Well, I guess detachment, yeah, it's detachment,
It's
but it's
non-attachment.
like,
It's like
it's
it's
like,
great. It's the
yeah,
best way to go about it, dude. Really. Like people will say,
the
you got
life is a game.
yeah,
Life's a
exactly.
game concept.
Exactly. You're playing like
Learn to play it well.
yeah,
That's it.
you're
You
playing
know,
games, dude. And so, yeah, there's consequences and so forth. But like, if your heart is in a dismal place, doing whatever you're doing, find a way to get out. I'm not saying jump ship immediately.
no,
Don't be in the middle of the ocean and be like, I want to swim to shore. No, dude. Like, be like, all right, I may need to build a raft and get some supplies. This is how it is. But you've got to start planning and being like, in 12 months, I'm out of this place.
right,
In 6 months, you got to set a date when it's over.
right.
Like, when you discover you have a dead horse, you don't immediately be like, fuck it. You got to be strategic about it. You've got to say, okay, here I am. I'm this far away from my destination. These are the options. UDA, just
Hmm.
orient, like
Observe, orient.
observe, orient,
Yeah,
decision, and action, dude.
yeah.
Just do that.
Do that constantly
And
during the whole
then
trip.
get the fuck out. Like that's it. And find to a place where you're gonna be happy. Find even if it's not what everybody else expects it to be. Like everybody else has got their versions of happiness and success. As I
Right.
remember, I saw this one clip of these dudes on a panel, I think in Florida or something like that. And they were like all influencer type dudes, like conference. And there was this one dude who was all buff and like
I
jacked
think I
up.
know what you're talking
And he
about.
was like, success is having $1 million and fucking bitches and rare,
Good
rare.
car and being body built and
Yeah.
shit, and then they have
Yeah.
the normal dad bods next to
Yeah,
him. I've seen that
that
video. Yeah.
dude was sitting there. He was like a Christian influencer, and
Right.
he's like my version of success is having a healthy family and spending
Right.
great time with my like
Right.
people that I love. And
Right.
he's like, that's not a success. And he goes blah blah blah, and like just keeps on barking at this dude. And I love the comment that the guy says is like, I can't believe you're making verbal threats to a gun carrying dude in Florida.
Yeah.
It's like.
It's
It's like
like,
all of your muscles and your flex, dude, don't
yeah.
mean shit if I can just pop, pop,
Just
pop
blow your
them.
fucking head off.
Yeah. But the point is, success isn't what anybody else deems it. Success
Right.
is a very personal, individual thing. And
Right.
it doesn't matter if you have 7 zeros in your bank account. It doesn't matter if you've got the best car. It matters if your heart is in that right state of vibration where you feel fulfilled,
Mhm.
fulfilled, complete, and you'll never be fully fulfilled. That's one of the beauty of being alive, is that even if you achieve your goal, you're going to feel a little bit of emptiness because you need desire to keep on moving. It's
Right.
it's an intricate part. So the hole, our void, can never be filled with the things that we do here on this plane. The only way we
Even if
get,
it's the best things, even
even
if
if it's
it's
the
like,
best
dude,
things,
I'm doing the things I wanted to do, you'll always be. So the only way to satisfy that is just accepting that, and that's why philosophy comes in so importantly in our lives. Like, I feel like at the death of Christianity, and the world was very Christian 100 years ago. It was like the norm, the standards, and everything. And who was it that wrote the death of God? Nietzsche, right?
Nietzsche. Yeah.
Yeah. So God is dead or something like that. But really, it's in the end, that left a void of understanding. Like now, for a very short time period in human history, we're kind of like, fuck this, like, no, screw religion and shit. And like sort of in a teenage phase of spirituality where like trans like the LGBTQ and all this kind of stuff like went way to the other side of the pendulum,
Yeah.
you know, and now it's sort of like normalizing, but now there's the risk of going to the other
Oh no,
extreme
that risk
conservative
no,
side.
it's not just a risk, it's what's happening. Like
Right,
it's legitimately, I said this a few years ago. I was like, beware of the pendulum swinging so far left because the return is going to go so far right.
right.
And like the whole thing that's happening with like the US, like it's a whole clusterfuck. Like if you really get into the whole what's happening in the US and the world and the shifting of the powers, it's like I don't know if you saw that video that Trump put out on Truth Social about Trump Gaza, where like basically it's like Gaza is this like resort town that Trump revitalized, and there's a golden statue of Trump, and Elon Musk is drinking coconuts there, and then there's like Muslim chicks in bikinis and stuff like that, like
Didn't
freedom.
see it.
No, well, dude, the thing is, like, that is a sitting president of the United States putting out like a troll video, which a lot of people's like, it's trolling. I was like, no, dude, as a president, you don't get the right to
No,
troll anymore.
no, no.
You got nuclear bombs, dude. You don't
Yeah,
get to troll. But what is he doing? It's a game, dude. These guys are playing a massive game,
yeah.
and the what people believe is their salvation could very well become the trap that ensnares them all. And
It's,
that's
it's either any way you go with politics, extreme left, extreme right is dangerous, man.
very
So
dangerous.
dangerous.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
there's like the extreme liberalism, which is like everybody does everything and there's no, it's basically pure chaos and there's no definitions of stuff. And the other side is pure fascism, like authoritarian control.
Right.
It's like
So it's
you
either
must believe.
Stalin or Hitler in the end.
Well,
Those are
no,
the sides of the
no, it's
pendulum,
more like it's
fascists
more,
versus
yeah,
communists.
exactly. It's
You know,
but even communism, exactly. Like communism eventually will deter into that, this is the moral code, and
right.
now, we'll kill
It ends
anyone.
up being a trap. It
Oh,
ends up
both
being a
both
prison,
sides will
you know.
become an authoritarian rule
Well, let's
and
hope that there's enough, what do you
awakened
call it?
people. I think
Yeah,
so.
there's enough
The
voices,
the
enough
thing is, like for
freedom.
example, those this is something I spoke about because Paul is very invested in this. He's got like research, deep research on all of this stuff. I don't have that much time for that, but
Been
it's
there,
in.
done that, bro.
Well, for me, what I'm doing is like I told him I was like, you keep on researching because this is gold for my novels. Like I need the elites to be really like
Yeah,
real,
Gerber. Yeah,
like no,
make
like
them nasty.
parallels between
Right.
what's actually happening.
What's
So,
really happening? Cool.
point is, yeah, shit's swinging very far right, and I think what Trump did and what Elon and these guys are doing is that they're playing a game, they're pandering to certain people, like they just released the Epstein files, right?
Oh, dude.
But it's
I
all
don't even want to
bullshit.
talk about that. That already has been known. Everything in those files
Oh,
that's been
totally. It was
released has
like
been released
like
before.
3 years ago.
It's public knowledge, dude.
Yeah, but it's all like it was all redacted and shit like
Right.
that. And I was like, dude, look at these psyops, dude. It's happening. Like you thought that the Kamala and those guys were like psyopsing and so evil. They're doing the exact same shit, just on the other side.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's
once you're in power, then there's other powers that's also involved that's not public, you
yeah,
know, nation states, very powerful individuals,
yeah,
that
totally.
they you don't want to fuck with them. And you can never be all gung ho about that shit. Like being realistic about being in power.
Yeah,
You can never go out there. I mean, why did President Abraham Lincoln get shot in there?
yeah,
Why did fucking JFK get shot in there?
yeah. They
Well, they were
stepped on some
challenging
tones.
they
Yeah,
were challenging the powers that really be, you know. So those always exist. The ones
yeah.
we see are not the ones in control, you know.
No.
And all of it is just this puppeteering game,
Well,
show
that's what I'm
business.
saying. What I was telling Paul was like the one thing that all authoritarians can't control is that chaos factor of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We ultimately want to be free.
Yeah,
Ultimately, that's what every human being just want to live their life and be okay and be with their family. And when the regime pushes too much at that, it awakens these slumbering warriors in
right.
all of us. And then shit goes down and it retopples and the cycles go again. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
not
don't
get
want to
into
get hung
politics.
up on that because it really
Let's
doesn't
not talk
define.
about that dead horse.
Yeah,
That dead horse
yeah, dude.
can be
It
there.
doesn't define, really doesn't define our lives. The only
No.
time when that shit starts defining our lives is when they start taking your religious freedom or your freedoms
Yeah.
or your freedom of speech.
There's a line.
Whenever that happens, then it starts fucking with you, and most probably you can't fight with it, so you gotta leave.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, that depends.
why fuck with it if you're not in the position to fuck with it?
Yeah.
So build around it. Do
Yeah.
your life
But
around
eventually
whatever the
there
fuck's
comes a
happening.
point when building around it is no longer an option. And
Yeah,
that's when you have to step up.
join
But
the resistance.
yeah,
Exactly.
and then when there's a line. Like once you get to that line, you've got to now make a decision, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's just
No, I
how it
mean,
is.
I try not to get too hung up on that
Neither
stuff
do I,
because
but
I got my life to live right now, and
totally.
there's so
And
much to do.
totally. And what I'm
So
coming at rather is just like have that line. The thing about it is like in COVID, for example, um, everybody pre-COVID was like, if the Nazis ever show up, I will
yeah,
stand up. And when the
uh,
Nazis showed up and implemented COVID, um, like everybody was like,
metaphorical Nazi stuff.
yes, yeah, well, depend. I'm pretty sure there was a couple of Nazis involved in that whole deal after Operation Paperclip and stuff. It's
Yeah,
pretty sure there's some nefarious
yeah,
isms in
probably.
there. But
What
the
I'm
point
saying
is,
is, it's not real Nazis, but
yeah,
they're using their methods.
yeah.
That
But the point is,
obey.
what I'm coming about it was that like people complied. They didn't. They bended the knee. I think a lot of people bended the knee and regretted it, and now they're not going to bend it easily again.
That
But
helps.
um, but the
But
point
that
is
same anger can be used for bad.
exactly.
You know,
But the
like
point
the
is
same.
you need to have a principled line in the sand and say, hey, you know what? I'm not doing this. This is from here on out. You're gonna have to force me. You're gonna have to use violence
Yeah,
because this is where it's gonna and maybe die. Die for your fucking cause if that's where it is. Because I was like that. I was like, no. And they're like, you got to do this. I'm like, nah, not gonna do it. I was like, well, why not? And everybody, like, not everybody, but like the people that were really wanted me to like, take the vaccine and do these type of things. I was like, listen, the math ain't mathing. This ain't like the flatten the curve is going to take 75 years based on their projections. So
yeah,
no, I'm not going to do this for 75 years. I'm
yeah,
not doing this for a thing. I will put my little mask on. I'll play your theatrics, but no, I'm not going to participate in that
yeah,
shit. And so, but that was the line. I had the fortunate situation that I was working remotely since like 2010. So nothing really changed for me in terms of that. In fact, I got more work as a result. But the point is, you have to have your principles. You have to have your lines. You have to set those boundaries for when you know that you're not going to violate your own principles anymore. And that could also relate back to the dead horse. You need to know when to call that line. Like we'll draw that hard line in the sand. Say this is the
yep,
day that I'm leaving this shit. I have to set a date, a physical date. This date on October 27th, I'm fucking off. That's how it's gonna happen. And and then commit to that and like follow through because
yeah,
you don't want to be caught up in the swell of life. You don't want to be pushed. You want to be the one that decides and exercises your free will. And the only way to
you want to
do
be
that
in
is
charge of yourself.
yeah, as
You
much
know?
as you can, right? Because
So I get a question then for everybody else that would be listening. Like, what are the dead horses in your life? Have you ever thought about that? Like, is it a relationship that just isn't ever going to work? Is it a partnership that isn't really working and won't work? Is it a job that you're doing that's really something that's killing you slowly? You know, the dead horse is like a rotten tomato infecting the other tomatoes.
yeah.
It's
Is it
like
a
making you
hobby? Is
dead.
it a hobby or like a pastime that's just
Yeah, or a
eating up?
habit or
Yeah, that's
anything.
that's eating
Like
up the joy out of your life.
right. So
Yeah,
just to vibe right, to feel good, to be happy, to end this life good. You know,
yeah.
have you seen the Gene Hackman and his wife thing? It's like I don't know
No,
if you saw
I
that.
I,
Gene
I
Hack-
heard that he died. But
Well, he's 95, so
oh
it's getting there. But
yeah,
they found him, his wife, and the dog in their house, and they were kind of mummified. So they said don't expect foul play or anything like that. Like they don't suspect that, but it's just weird, you know.
very weird.
But shout out to Gene Hackman.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for all the good movies, buddy.
Yeah,
And the point is, one of my theories is maybe he did it to himself because he was just fucking tired and it's like the end of it all. And this is my favorite dog. My
yeah.
wife's convinced. Let's go, bro.
Let's
You know,
all
now that
drink
all
this
seven
potion.
planets are aligned in the sky in 2040, maybe this is the time, dude. Let's get on
Maybe
that rocket ship.
let's fly out of
You
here.
never know. But
Yeah,
or maybe somebody fucking murdered him. Who knows, dude? But you know, point is that in the end we're all gonna end up.
yeah,
Gene Hackman, famous, Academy Awards, blah blah blah, probably millionaire. Happy life, happy wife, and all that stuff. And his fate is the same as every single.
yeah. And that's why really, what's the purpose of life is to live it,
Yeah.
right? To really live it, not
And do
to
it now, not
yeah,
tomorrow, not
today,
yesterday. You
today,
know,
right
because many
now.
people is like, man, it's because that time in my life was so good. I fucking can't stop thinking of or talking about it.
No,
Or it's gonna be great. No, bro. Get out of the past, get out of the present, and get out of the future and live the present.
yeah,
Just live
it's the only place we have. I
it.
call it the eternal present.
Mhm.
It's what's always happening. It's always here. It's right now. And that's why like I said I've tried to become as detached from the projects, from the games that I'm doing, these type of things, whether they win or fail, I need to enjoy myself as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And one of these days, I'm gonna hit a home run. One of these days, something's gonna explode very well, and that's cool. Or maybe it's
Yeah.
not, and then
Maybe it isn't.
maybe it
That's cool.
isn't. But at least throughout that process, I produced a book that I can read and give my family, and like express my creative side, and do the things that I love to do with the people that I love to do. And
Sometimes you're a Da Vinci or a Van Gogh that, it's like, yeah, yeah, okay, your paintings sell for all right money,
yeah,
but now it's worth millions.
yeah,
You
exactly,
know, it's like in
exactly.
their lifetime, they didn't make that much cash on it,
Yeah.
especially Van Gogh.
But now they're like they're infamous, right? They're
Yeah,
like,
Da Vinci had to invent and engineer things to keep himself alive. Like his paintings didn't sell for shit.
yeah,
So it's like, you know,
that's the
what I'm
point.
saying is like they're amazing artists, but they left the art and it's worth a lot. But during their lifetimes,
They
they were
weren't.
playing the
Yeah.
painting game.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like because they loved it. You
Because they
know,
loved it, because they went like it's like Picasso.
they
Picasso
had to do.
Picasso was boning till he was like 95. Like
Good job.
according to the legend, he would leave like 20-year-olds like
Tired.
tired. And then after he'd bone, he'd go
Kegel
paint.
exercise.
He'd go paint again. He would paint 16 hours a day. Picasso.
Bone
Just
and paint.
boning and painting and drinking and partying. That was his life, dude. And I was like, fucking Picasso, bro. You did your thing, right? And I'm sure he enjoyed it. He lived to 95. Like he went out there and did his thing, and that's what it's about, dude. It's like finding that thing that really just makes you feel alive and doing it. And if the flame withers and it doesn't make you feel alive anymore, then find
Get
another
off the
flame.
horse.
Yeah, find a new one, dude. Like there's so many flames. You can
We
start a forest
change.
fire.
We change so the things that make us happy change.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly. As
part
you
of
pursue something, you'll transform in the process. And
right.
what you used to think that you like is not longer valid in your present state. And so, in the eternal present, you have to be aware about how your feelings are changing about and what passion it's that you really want to do and so forth. So, like, yeah, man, I think that's like the key fundamentals
Well, I love
of
it, bro. I love
of
it.
dead
Good little
horses.
talk. We all have dead horses, and
Yeah,
we all need to realize that we're riding them at some point in our lives.
yeah,
Get
totally.
off.
Get off of your dead horse. That's the way it's gonna be. Uh, and just have a good time, man. Like really, I'm doing this with you because I love it. I'm
Yeah,
working on that thing that we're doing because
yeah,
I love it. I think it's
yeah.
great. And I'm exploring all these AI tools and shit like that because
It's
creativity,
interesting,
man.
right? And
And
it's a thing there.
and I see the double-edged sword. Like I'm actually, this is why I'm doing this AI stuff because like I've been writing since I was 8, and then AI comes in, and now you can like everybody can write. Everybody's a writer if you know how to prompt.
Right.
And it's like so I see the benefit of being able to express yourself creatively really quickly. But then at the same time, there's that muscle of writing that you lose, and so and with the music, for example, the AI music, I generated that song. It's great first listen. But as I keep on playing with it, I start noticing the roboticness in the voices.
Right.
I start noticing these little things that I'm like, okay, so this is it's not there yet. Maybe it gets there. Maybe it gets to a point of being indistinguishable from like, what we do. But the human factor and creativity and the expression, it changes something um, in the art form itself. It's like it's weird. So, it's a double-edged sword. I think AI is a very interesting thing. I think it's obviously here to stay. It's not going to go away. It's only going to become more apparent. But yeah, man, today's age is more viable for anybody to chase their dreams than ever in history. And yes, there might be like crazy political shit happening all over the world. But today, just with all of the tools that you have available freely online, you can literally create anything.
Yeah.
Like you can, from physical products to digital products to movies. Like, give it 5 years and you can think of an idea for a movie and make a 2 hour movie yourself. And it'll be very okay.
You're
Like, it
right
wouldn't,
about that, man. And people are so stuck on what's Trump doing, what's Britain doing, what's Ukraine doing, what's, my neighbor doing, what's the company's bosses doing? What are you doing? You
yeah,
know? And what can you do? And that's the thing, like all this noise, like as you say, we have the most like tools available to do basically anything we want to do now in these
yeah,
days. But also at the same time, there's so much overreach of information that really is none of your business and you can't do shit about
yeah.
it, you know? So, but it's so much of it all the time. We're always hearing shit like, I would probably had heard that Gene Hackman died, you know, a year or 3 years later than the event happened 20 years ago, like
Yeah.
20 years ago. You don't hear about that shit. It's like, oh, dude, did you know that that guy actually died? It's like, oh, fuck. And like a talk in a house with a buddy.
Yeah.
But now it was like the day he died, it popped up on my YouTube feed that Gene Hackman died. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. I like that actor. But
Yeah.
it's like a distraction that I don't, I mean, love Gene Hackman,
Yeah.
love his movies, but I don't give a fuck if he
Yeah.
died or not because he's not a direct family member of mine or a friend or whatever. That
No.
hurts.
No.
But why should I fucking find out about that shit now when I'm creating a training course and have kids to feed and fucking cook some food and shit? I got my own life to live.
Yeah.
I think we got to sort of come back to that too. Just
Well,
like
it's
my
about
universe.
cutting out. Well, that's a thought that I had. It's like, um, you are supposed to care about how far your senses can travel. You know, like, you're supposed to be invested into that which falls within the realm of your natural senses. So, like, if you can stand up on your roof and see your whole neighborhood, we'll care about that because you can see that, and then if something's happened there, you can interact and do with it. But since we got the internet, and since we got phones and all these things, our perspective has gone beyond our senses. Like, we can now know what's happening in Ukraine. We can now know. And so this is kind of a God power. Like, you have this power of a God of kind of pseudo omniscience. Like, you can literally, if you just focus wherever, you can see almost anything on the entire planet. But you have a finite mind. Your mind is rigged to your natural senses, so it only can interact. And so this digital world, this crystal ball that we look into, it takes our attention. And our attention is the only thing that matters. It's the only thing, currency on this planet. Like, people say time is the most valuable resource, and that's a lie. Time is not the most valuable resource because you can actually add time to your life. And we're like, wow, how do you do that? Read a book. If you read a book, you take experience and you take time that's been condensed into a small thing and you eat it, and then your being actually grows from experience that would have taken you a
of
100 years
other
to learn.
of other
But
people.
but you've just
Right.
consumed it. So you can add like imaginary
Minutes.
time
Right. You
to
can add
your
minutes and
life. But
effort.
what you can't get back is attention. Tension is a flow that wherever you're pointing that attention is, it gives it your life source energy. It's like this is becoming alive. You are cultivating this. You're collapsing the waveforms so that this becomes reality. And so
Right.
that's the most precious thing that we have. And in a world of noise and static, being able to focus like a laser is a superpower. To being able to just block out the rest of the shit and say, that's what I'm going for. And fuck, okay, Gene, great. Sorry, bro. My cat's dying. Like, I got other problems. So, and that's the same thing with this whole like Trump and all these things. I'm like, all right, I know what's going on. I keep my hand on the pulse, but I'm not invested. I'm not
No.
invested in that. I'm working
And
on
I
my own
don't
shit.
fight for any politician.
No, no,
None of them bring food to my house.
no.
So to start worshiping them like cult leaders is a
Yeah.
very dangerous thing.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what
I
it
just
is.
don't do that shit.
Uh,
Again, like I don't want to. I want to know and understand my times. That's
yeah,
all,
that's it.
so I can know what I got to do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like what, how am
Uh,
I maneuvering and how
yeah,
I'm playing my game.
yeah.
And
How should
they're,
I educate my kids because this shit's happening in
yeah,
school?
exactly.
Like that's all I care about.
Exactly.
Keep
Preparing.
it present, man.
Yeah.
Keep it present.
Keep it present, keep it local.
Right.
Keep it to you and yours.
Yeah.
And
Your time.
where, or like as Jocko said, your circle of power and your circle of influence. Those are the two areas of life where you can affect any type of change. Like your
Mm-hmm.
power, circle of power is literally anything you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can do something that's within your power to change something, then do it. And if it's within your
Beautiful.
circle of influence, for example, talk to your wife about doing something that you would like her to do. You influence her, but you can't force her to do it. That's where it ends. You're just like, hey, could you do that?
Those days are gone.
Those days where you just slap them quickly to put them in their place.
Okay, Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
All right,
um,
bro. Listen, I
yeah,
think
man.
we got some good shit for today,
Yeah,
and for some reason, thank all the gods, the old ones and the new.
yeah.
I have a lot of work to do,
Excellent.
and people are calling me up
That's
urgently.
awesome.
So yeah,
That's awesome. All
and
right,
I
man.
also got to deal with the transition between this house and the new house because my old house is now kind of repaired, but it's like end of month, so I can't just leave this renter and be like, hey, okay, fuck you, dude,
Peace.
I'm leaving. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
right, dude. So I got some hard shit to deal with.
Yeah, that's fine, dude.
Yeah,
Well, good luck with your ventures. May you be blessed on your path and may the resources that you require fall into your lap with ease.
same with you, man.
Yeah,
Same
man.
with you.
I
Blessings, my
will
brother.
I will be working a little bit more on our project, and I'll be pushing
Awesome,
that
dude.
along
Appreciate
because
that.
this coming month I would like to do the filming and stuff like that. So,
Cool. We be
all right.
doing it, man.
Anyway,
It's gonna
people,
be good.
let us know what you guys thought about this episode. If you liked it, if you enjoyed it, clips are coming. I think there's going to be a lot of good clips coming out. If you guys have any topics that you would like us to discuss, if not, we can come up with infinite topics. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so you guys have a good one. Let us know, like, subscribe, do all those wonderful things, and peace out.
Talk to you later.